Hi, my name is Zachary Angelot, and I wanted to go over my program a bit, at least updates to it. And I wanted to go over, I guess you could say, some of the issues and problems and certain corrections I was having and doing while working on my program. I think there's a bit of a, a thing with maybe the idea of, okay, so you have something that can interpret text. And so, what do you do next? And so, I think, like I explained in a prior video, where you're always doing more abstractions, you're coming across, okay, now, the rubber meets the road, what do I do with it? And part of the issue I was kind of having was, do you have it look for certain text? Do you have it go by certain kind of meanings? Do you have it look for more abstractions? What level of things are you gonna have it try to cherry pick, as far as running commands and what it can do and everything? I think I was starting off, uh, kind of having it pick out text, which sort of in a sense defeats the point of the MoE model, but it kind of doesn't, in the sense of it also understood that those words were, files, folders, whatever it is. And so it was using the neural network, but just in a short way, or a primitive way. And so, I've had it updated to look at it more from I guess you could say, abstracted way of looking at the words, in the sense of it's somewhere on the bottom line. It has to, if you want it to run a command, like actually do something, it has to know about the command, right? It can't just, if you were to teach it all words, all grammar, read ton of books, so on and so forth, it won't be able to understand, what a command is, or it won't be able to read your mind for the command. And so, how do you go from, let's say, hard coding reading text to having it kind of, in a more abstract way, utilize its ability to, I guess, have meaning in the words or phrases? And so, yeah, a lot of it has to do with context and semantics. And so I'm having it kind of pinpoint, as far as, with the tagging and the phrases and whatever abstraction, having it utilize that as the target point to be able to run commands. And so, like I said, it'll never be able to fully know what it is you're talking about, and it has to know at some point somewhere what commands you're referring to. It can't, if you said go fish, if you don't teach anything about fishing, and you don't teach it the actions you need to fish, and it just isn't, there's nothing there for it to understand. And so, no matter how much level of abstraction you put on top of those words, it has to know what you want it to do. And you can have it either pick out words or use those abstractions to generalize the commands. And yeah, you're always, when you do abstractions or layers, you're always going to run the chance of it not quite getting it right. And so, if you have it directly pick out words and directly do a certain command, yeah, it will, its accuracy be quite high. But then you have to program in every single thing, and that's not what I wanted. I wanted its ability to understand the abstractions to be utilized, so that I don't have to program as much if I want it to learn new commands. You'll never get it to the point at which it teaches itself, just because, I mean, maybe, I guess, if you had to read like a million computer books, but even then, just the the chance it would understand what it is you're attempting to do, because everybody speaks differently. Even if it did get it kind of right, or even majority of the time right, that it would never get that accurate, just because it needs feedback, but it also needs to know who it's talking to, or who you are talking to it. And so there's kind of a lot of levels of rules, I guess you could say, of how it can utilize the abstractions to either interpret your commands or interpret how to do actions based on those commands. And so having it be able to run or utilize those abstractions instead of just word, or rule, you don't have to program as much, and you can have the program, to a certain degree, understand more about what it is that you're attempting to accomplish. Or at least you don't have to, at a fine-grained level, do it as much. It still needs to learn. It still needs to know what it is you're saying. It still needs to, you know, understand you, understand the words, understand the actions, and be able to go after the fact, and realize what it has done and see if it's correct. And so it's still a work in progress, and trying to utilize those abstractions for actions. Um, so if you did, you know, uh, add folder jack and add file jack, it can, you can think about it as like JSON, but it's able to fill the gaps. And so, that may not be entirely how someone talks, but it's looking for pieces, and it's filling in those pieces into the JSON semantics. And so when you run it, as you can see, it sort of spills out the kind of what it's attempting or trying to put together, what's going on and why. Again, it'll never be able to do, no matter how many words or phrases or whatever, it'll never be able to just abstractly know what it is you're talking about. You do at some point have to lay down a rule set, but you can attempt to try and make it as generalized and utilize its abstractions as possible, so that when you do want it to do something else, it's not such a coding game, so to speak. As you can see, it made both. And then you can do well, let's just, I don't know, get rid of this. If you did in folder jack, well, if you did add file handler that go, or really jack, see if, does it get that? No, it didn't. Did it even add? No. So let's see if my other approach would do it. In folder jack add handler dot go. No. Folder name is missing. Well, what happens if you did add folder jack and add handler dot go? So it's sort of understood that there was a folder named Jack. Ah, I just didn't add some to do the next. Add folder Jack. And I wonder if it's because I didn't put file. Yeah. See, that's what I mean of it's trying to fill the gaps. And I sort of understand, it's kind of hard for it to learn what you want based upon shorthand commands. But I wonder if there's a more holistic, intent guessing way to. Because one thing, I went on and off a lot of times with it trying to ask you, is this right? Is this the right folder? Is this the right folder? But then I was thinking to myself, what's the point? I mean, just right click, make the file folder. If you're answering all these questions, like that's sort of it's kind of pointless. What if I did add handler code to check handler? Oh, did I add it? No. So I wonder if I gotta spell it out. To folder Jack and handler and file handler.go. No. See, and then it sort of. I wonder if I gotta do. To see, it's still doing that /. Well, I still got a lot to to be able to parse out with this, but as you can kind of tell, I'm kind of getting there with being able to parse out and I guess you could say the program aspect of it. I really don't want to spend too much time programming the the output of what's going on, just because I feel like that I'm building a program. I really just want to work on the intent part of it, and maybe the holistic logic of the model, so that I don't have to do this quite as much too. There's a lot of levels to it, but yeah, a lot of this you could kind of see into. This is the CMD to command line stuff. It does create vocabulary and for the model and all that. This thing I think is probably just it made it. Let me delete that. But like I said, you could still run the model and everything. You can tell I've been practicing a lot with inference. If you run the model, and it loads quite a bit of stuff. in order to get it to that point. But the point is to try and get it down to hopefully a user doesn't have to fine grain things and utilize the abstraction so that it isn't just a text matching program or whatever, even though at a very basic level it's exactly what it's doing. But I don't want it to hit, on the back end you want to be able to do that, but on the front end you don't want to have to rematch everything, because what's the point then? So, but yeah, that's I guess you could say what I've been working on and everything. There's definitely a lot to it, but I'll keep working on it and keep making videos on it. All right, thank you.